Hey everyone. Well, of course it took an engineering student and a submitted opinion piece in CBC to hear anything that's remotely objective or a counter narrative to the prevailing rhetoric that's constantly put forth and presented by the collectivists, the parasites, the inept, the economically or financially illiterate types that contribute to the CBC on a regular and ongoing basis. Don Pittis. Like I say, it's an opinion piece. Headline: raising the basic personal amount, not the minimum wage, is the way to help low-income workers. Increasing the minimum wage is a good way for governments to collect more taxes, however. It's so true, right? Like I say, you're going to get a little bit of pushback, a little bit of truth here, Canada. And like I say, you won't get it from the actual regular contributors, the editorial board, or the media hacks in the CBC, but because they have to allow some outside opinions, right? Otherwise, if they didn't allow anyone to submit an opinion piece, well, then you would know with 100% certainty, after an audit is performed, you'd find out that, of course, it's 100% politically biased. So they got to sprinkle a little bit in once in a while so that they can say, hey, look, we put forth alternative narratives. Well, we don't, but we allow them, we allow contributors, right? We all want the poor in Canada to be better off, but increasing the minimum wage just isn't the way to do it. There has been endless debate about the minimum wage lately. One side argues that a $15 minimum wage will raise the standard of living and help stimulate the economy, while the other side points to the increased labor costs leading to massive layoffs. In Ontario, the Wynne government has framed the debate as a battle between government and business, with the government seemingly taking the moral high ground by standing up for low-income workers, while businesses try to slash benefits and increase profits. I mean, what a false premise already, right? In a business, you know yourself. Whether you know anything about politics, you know yourself that when you go into a business, any interaction you have with the business is done voluntarily. Well, unless the government forces you to use that business, right? Like insurance and a few other areas. But any private business, your relationship is wholly voluntarily. And you can walk away at any time, or you just don't even have to deal with them. Government, not so much. But yeah, government, the people in government, like the politicians, but they're benevolent and business people are evil. Even though business people need to appeal to you on a voluntary basis for you to consume or buy or use their products or services, the government doesn't. But yeah, they're trying to paint the government people, the parasites, they're benevolent, and those evil business owners, they're just greedy, and they'll just take advantage of you the minute you got your back turned. But while everyone's fighting over minimum wage stats and numbers, one option seems to have been overlooked. Increase the basic personal amount to reflect the standard of living. This would put more money in the hands of the working poor, help stimulate the economy, and would also not have any effects on labor costs or small business profit margins, right? So in other words, what this gentleman is trying to say is that if the government was stealing less of your productive wealth or your income, you would have more money in your pocket, and you wouldn't be imposing that income or forcing other people to provide that added income or that end in spending power. It would be just a result of the government stealing less of your money, less of your productive income. Shocking revelation. I know in Canada, especially, it's 2018, and in socialist Kanakistan, I guess we actually do have to point this stuff out. The fact that this has to be pointed out in an opinion piece, in an article in CBC News, that shows you just how fucking crazy things are in this country, that how far they've gone to the socialist model, to the central planning model, where people need to actually have this put forth and presented as an opinion piece or an article. You should know that instinctively. Holy fuck. But like I said, that government education that you got, you're not going to find it out there. And those government paid teachers, it's not in their best interest to tell you the truth, or the universities, or some of your parents that maybe benefit from working for government, or, like I say, there's a lot of people, and it's not a conspiracy by any stretch of the imagination, it's just people aren't going to shoot themselves in the foot, right? So people that rely on government, the parasites, and like I say, in Canada, what are they at? 4.2 million of Canadians work for government in some capacity. whether it's federally, provincially, or locally. So you're talking about a huge, substantial portion of the population. It's like, mom's the word, I ain't saying a thing. But in reality, of course, what do they say now? Government, we're taxed to, what is it? You're in June before you're paying off your tax for the year. So you're working half a year just to pay into these taxes for these services, which, think about what you make. Take half of what you make in a year. Are you spending, let's say, if you make 30 grand even, that's lower end on the spectrum, lower onto the pay scale. But are you spending 15 grand a year? Every year, year in, year out? Are you consuming $15,000 worth of government services? I highly doubt it. Right? No, that's propping up the parasitical class, or, well, the ruling class, which I repeat myself, or some of these special interest groups that lobby government, or crony corporations. I mean, you're propping up so many fucking evil and vile people that you just really, most Canadians have no clue. But of course it makes sense that, hey, government, instead of stealing 40+%, almost half of my paycheck, and that's on the low end of the spectrum, low end of the pay scale, they're stealing that much. That's average, actually. But it's like, well, I would have a lot more money to spend on the things that matter to me. That's the other thing, like government. First of all, who would ever believe, why are people so stupid? Well, indoctrination. To believe that government has a higher claim on your productive labor, on your productive capacity, on your wealth, on your paycheck. To think that someone other than you that did the work has a higher claim to that paycheck. Well, like I say, that's just, you just believe in slavery, but it's a newly tweaked and reinvented form of slavery. It's called being part of the working class with big government, with socialism, communism, I don't care, fascism, with collectivism as the base premise and the foundation for your social economic development and interactions. What's that other, before I go and read a little bit here, what's the other thing though? The government steals more from you in taxes than what you pay for your housing, your food, and your clothing combined. And you can look to a Fraser Institute study to find that truth out, and I'll probably try to post a link to that in the description of this video too, so you can see that too. I mean, I'll try to make it as easy as possible. It'll be right there in the description. Just hit the link, find this shit out for yourself. We're all trying. There's a bunch of us out here trying our best to help educate and inform and enlighten a lot of you people, and we're doing most of the work. You just have to, like, we've beaten the path down for you. All you got to do is follow it. Now, you don't have to. You can follow the leftists or the collectivists or the progressive conservatives or the so-called conservatives or the NDP or any of these other political parasites. You can follow their path, but like I say, I know where they lead. The only path to liberty is the kind of path that I'm trying to put you on, or people like myself that are trying to put you on. And why is that? Think about it. I'm not seeking to have any position of authority or power over you. So I have no vested interest in tricking you. My only vested interest is my freedoms rely on your freedoms and each other. Like, in order for me to have freedom, you have to have your freedom. And for you to have freedom, I have to have my freedom. It's a reciprocal relationship, just like if we were having exchange or bartering or in a capitalist venture. We both have to walk away from the interaction, both benefiting. The minute there's I'm a winner and you're a loser by edict, by mandate, through force or compulsion, well, you're just going to look at the person that's been oppressed by the means of the big gigantic gun in the room. Well, they're just going to look to use that big gigantic gun against you at some point in the future. Which is this collective race to the bottom that we're currently experiencing. The basic personal amount, also called the basic personal exemption, or BPE, is a tax credit available to all those who pay income tax. It represents the primary value of income that can be earned without being subject to taxes. The BPE is $11,909 federally and varies by province, ranging from $8,160 in PEI to $18,915 in Alberta, where the minimum wage will jump to $15 an hour in October. In Ontario, where the $15 minimum wage is slated for 2019, the BPE is $10,354. This means that the provincial government taxes all earnings over $10,354. So think about that. If you're earning around 10 grand, the government's already taxing you as soon as you earn a little bit over 10 grand. So do they really care about the poor? How can they put forth the present that they care about the poor when they're fucking taxing the poor? I mean, like I say, I'm not reading any more from this article, although I will post a link to it in the description of the video below, because I agree with this young man. It's just that I know this stuff instinctively, so I really don't have to point it out myself. But I always want people like you that watch my videos to read through these things, right? I don't have to spend, massive amounts of time. I'll give you my opinion. I'll give you what I think regarding the topic, regarding the subject, and then you should run with that. Don't listen to just what I have to say or what's this young man, Martin Corbett, or anyone else, or even some of the leftists or collectivists. Don't listen to just what one person says on this side of the political aisle or this side, or people like myself that don't even delve into the politics because I don't believe in masters or rulers. But just listen to what we all have to say and come up and conjure up. And unless you're really stupid, you can figure this stuff out on your own. And the government and the people that try to tell you that you're just too stupid to figure this out on your own, those are the ones that truly want to dominate and control you, okay? I'm telling you, you have the capacity within you. Now, there are some things that, yes, okay, you get to a certain threshold where people need to have certain IQs to understand particular things. But the kind of stuff that we're talking about here is something that you can all understand. The problem is they use legalese or doublespeak to try to convince you or trick you into thinking that it's just so complicated you can never understand it. That's not the truth. That's not reality. They don't want you to talk about politics or religion, and they want you to leave all that in the hands of the experts, right? But the experts, that's just a word. Sit down with them someday, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, maybe have a cup of beer with them someday. Be like, hey, you're not nearly as smart as you fucking pretend you are. I guess all that shit line on your wall, all those government credentials or accreditation, well, doesn't really mean a whole lot. Does it? No, of course it doesn't. It's G'day, Libertarian, and I love liberty.